I don't know if you caught this, but Tesla's stock is down over 40% from its high.
Just a little bit, yeah.
Just a little bit. But I don't know if you saw the news. I'm sure you did. That the president is going to save Tesla because he bought a Tesla, and they had basically a car show in front of the White House. And I just wanted to get your take on that. Will the president buying a Tesla save the stock to you?
No is the answer to that. However, I am expecting at any point Marco Rubio to set up shop in the East Room and offer ShamWows.
Is that with help from JD Vance or without?
I think it will be with help. JD Vance will be the little sort of, like the fancy model that models up the ShamWows.
You know what? I would buy a ShamWow. If the two of them were on a couch together doing, I would absolutely get that. So basically, we're bullish on ShamWow and Marco Rubio, not so bullish on Tesla.
I like it as I like the White House as the new sort of shopping channel. I really do.
I think there's something there.
Yeah.
We'll see.
Just remember, everybody has your story to tell. Tell it well. Untitled Marketing.
And now, for your listening pleasure, here's Pulizzi and Rose, covering the week of media, marketing, and digital content news. This Old Marketing. Take it away, boys.
Well, hello, friends. Welcome to This Old Marketing, proudly brought to you by the HubSpot Podcast Network, the audio destination for business professionals. And I'm Robert Rose. Welcome to episode number 471 for Friday, March 14th, 2025. And with me, as usual, is my pal, my colleague, and a guy whose stocks this week didn't sink as low as Mr. Elon Musk. Well, it's Mr. Joe Pulizzi.
Did you had that? Did you have that in the box already?
I did.
Wow.
I had actually. Well, I'm going to be completely transparent because that's what we owe our audience. I had the ShamWow joke all teed up for the introduction. And then you set me up perfectly for it.
Oh,
so
wow. See, this
I
is
went
how
with the ShamWow joke for the cold open, and then went with while literally the theme song was playing, I rewrote the introduction. That's
your adjustments on the fly are just like kind of like Saturday Night.
What a professional!
It's
very, professional!
What a very professional.
Yes.
So how was your week? Not much is in the news.
Oh gosh,
you just kind of sat back and got some work done.
I've been, focus on the work, focus on the work, focus on the work. It's been my advice to all my pals and colleagues and everybody is just do the work, focus on the work. And the work could be a lot. It could be a lot of things. For me, it's the work. It's my job, which I've been enjoying very much, and just not, I'm not paying attention a lot to the news, to be honest, because it's so much noise, so much thrash. It's a little amazing. Everything that's going on at the same time, with foreign policy, with domestic policy, with everything that's happening here and abroad. It's just a lot.
It's tough we've talked a little bit about it. Now, by the way, we're not talking about politics all that much.
No, it's just the quantity of news, basically.
But yeah, I saw this Jon Stewart clip where he was basically saying he understands the people that want to tune out. I was one of them. I tuned out almost all of February because it just was overwhelming. I felt like I had to.
Yeah.
Plus I was on vacation or whatnot. But he says, if we're really responsible as citizens, we can't afford to tune out. Like, we have to stay involved and stay ready. And so, I'm torn between those two things. No matter what side you're on, I'm torn. Because I read it. And by the way, I always try to read it. It was interesting. I told you before the show, my son and I went to spring training It was lovely. We had a great time. But we'd have breakfast at the hotel every morning, and Fox News is on, and everybody's watching and whatever. And I'm trying to eat. But it's so interesting how and we've talked about this before. Most of what's on, not just Fox News, but CNN and all the other ones, is opinion.
Sure.
So you're not seeing the
news.
news.
It's what we think about the news. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. We're not seeing the news. And I'm like, and that's why I would just compel everyone, including myself. So this is a talk to me, is to read it.
Yeah.
To not to watch it, to read it and to get it, that so you can make your own opinions about it. Not that it's perfect, not that, but I think not having somebody tell you what you need to think before you even get the news is really, really important today. And that's what I've been telling some people that I'm close to. I don't know if it's working, but I'm certainly trying to.
Yeah, it's great advice, which is you've got to find somewhere that just gives you the facts, right? And then you can make up your own mind about what that is, right? And but if you start from the premise that all of them are tainted somehow, and that they're all in it together, or certainly for their own, then it's kind of useless, right? Then you start from a place where there is no productive solution. So you have to start from at least a place of saying, this is where I believe I'm getting the straight, and by the way, not left, not right, not center necessarily, but just literally, I'm just getting the information, and then letting myself make up the choice of what I'm supposed to think or believe about this, and make rational decisions. And I mean, I realize the difficulty of that, even literally as the words come out of my mouth, I realize that that's a difficult thing for us to do. And so, I'll tell you, I'll give you an example of this. I find most of my solace coming from not the U.S. news. I look at a lot of BBC. I look a lot at, at sort of other international news sources to see what's going on in the world, and sort of then go, okay, great. Now I can dig in a little deeper here, or I can dig in a little deeper there, but that's kind of it.
It's interesting. You and I have had talks before about, just if you look at events, and you look at events that are driven by sponsorship and events that are driven by attendees paying for it, and you don't have any sponsors, that's a different kind of content. And it's just inherent to the way that it's run, is if you are supported by sponsors, you always have to make sure that the content is not going to offend the sponsors. You have to, or you get in all sorts of trouble. So there's an inherent conflict of interest with anything you do. It's just part of being in the event game. It's like, this person's going to talk about this, or this is a competitor to this, and you're always looking at it. You don't have that in just, hey, this is a paid event, or even like a paid Substack or something. And they don't have conflict of interest. Somebody's paying for that, and they're going to give you 100% what they feel. And it's just more of truth, I would say, or you have an easier way to get to truth. And I think that's where a lot of what we're at with the news business today is, it's just all seems like it's a big conflict of interest.
Yeah. I mean,
because the business model's failed.
That's right. That's the key is that the business model is failing, and with no incentive to basically reinvent the business model, then you end up with what we have, right? Which is it's super difficult to find something that is literally, dead center, right? I mean, it's almost impossible, right, to find that, because you end up with a business model that is completely built on the back of making sure that as many eyeballs see it as possible, whether or not those eyeballs are paying for it in an advertising sense, or in a not in a subscription sense necessarily, because that's driven. But if you look at, like, for example, New York Times, right, which is largely driven by subscription, you would think, oh, okay, well that's it, but it's not, of course, because because of their audience, right? What drives subscription has to be, that's the business model as well. It's a very, very difficult place to be in reporting what's happened, right?
Well, I know we've started out with such an uplifting topic.
Yeah, it's fun.
But
It's
fun.
fun.
The one thing I do want to say, and I don't think this is getting political at all, but I just, on behalf, and I'll speak for you, on behalf of the show, I want to send out my deepest apologies to the Canadian people.
Well, yes,
we have a lot of listeners in Canada,
Canadian,
and we have a lot of friends in Canada. I've heard from a lot of you. And
yes,
we have Content Entrepreneur Expo coming up in August, and I've had a few of my Canadian friends reach out and say, look, I can't go to America right now. And I totally understand that.
Totally.
So I just wanted to say, not get any deeper than we feel for you. We really do. And I would like to send out my deepest condolences.
Yeah. Well, it's not condolences. It's kudos to them for
temporary
doing the right
condolences thing. No, it's just our behavior, not their behavior.
Right. Apologies, basically,
apologies
that we're a bunch of
we're Americans.
I was gonna
we're
say
Americans,
but I'm not supposed to curse on the show.
You curse all the time on the show.
I know, but I rarely drop the F-bomb. But there we go.
Yes,
we're being fuckwits.
Mostly. You have the other 6 bad words you say all the time, not the 7. According to George Carlin. I miss. We need a little George. We need a little George Carlin right now in our lives. I wish he was around for this.
Bill Burr's doing a nice job.
I haven't caught. I haven't caught his new stuff. Really?
Go look it up. Yeah, go look it up. It's good stuff. He's going after Elon in a big way. Yeah, he's going politics and
really he doesn't usually do that.
No, I know. He's really gotten a burr in his saddle. See what I did there?
See
how that works?
Very nice.
Yeah.
Very nice.
Anyway.
Very nice.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Good. I'll check it out.
Yeah, we got a show. We have a show. We have a wonderful show here. We're going to first talk about the big stories, as it were, which is Spotify is in the news. After paying $5 billion in royalties to independents. Half of their royalties went to independent audience. What does this mean for the record companies? We'll have a little discussion about that. Then we will go to a acquisition for content marketing. That's right. Wonder has acquired Tastemade, the media company, and they're going to make a mealtime super app. Let's talk about that. Then Unilever is going to hire 20 times more influencers for their new marketing focus. And I think they're just doubling down on influencers and those kinds of things. So we'll talk a little bit about that and what the implications might be for both marketers and content creators. We'll get to our winners and losers, where I will talk a little bit about the Spencer Stuart new research on CMO tenure, which comes out every year, but the 2025 is just now out. Joe will talk about his experience on Southwest Airlines, which should be entertaining.
Wow.
And then we'll get to our rants and raves, where I'm going to have some commentary about shadow AI, which is becoming more and more of a thing. And Joe will rave about Substack, because he finally has taken my advice and looked deeper into Substack. And
I took what do you call it? The gray pill, whatever color Substack is. I'm really starting to think about
whatever color Substack is.
Yeah. No, I should be over there.
It's a good tool.
Feel like it, but we're going to talk about the brands that are moving over there that I have not realized the brand growth over on Substack. We need to talk about this.
It's a viable email newsletter. I mean, it's really good stuff. It's really good stuff. Okay, let's get to it here. Let's start with our big story, which is going to come to us courtesy of the Hollywood Reporter and a LinkedIn post. By the way, big thanks to listener Jared Johnson. Thank you, Jared, for the show idea. Really appreciate it. He reached out through LinkedIn to me and said this might be a story worth covering. So the Hollywood Reporter is at least one. There was a Bloomberg article that really went into this, but Bloomberg wants me to sign up for like thousands of dollars per year for a subscription, and I said no, I'm not going to do that. No.
You draw the line at $1,000.
I draw the line at Bloomberg for sure at $1,000 or whatever it was. Anyway, The Hollywood Reporter headline is half of Spotify's royalties are going to indie artists. The company confirmed in a new report that it paid $5 billion to independent artists in 2024. The article opens up by saying Spotify updated its annual Loud and Clear report on Wednesday, confirming that for the second consecutive year, the streaming giant paid out half of its royalties to independent artists. Of the $10 billion Spotify doled out to music rights holders last year, it gave about $5 billion to indie labels and artists. The company said a $500 million increase from 2023. As a quote from, it is Sam Duboff, Spotify's global head of marketing, said, it speaks to the opportunities and choices that artists have today. And basically said a lot of what streaming and Spotify has enabled is for artists to be more in control over how they want to navigate their career. You've got tons of artists choosing to go with major label path, getting life-changing advances and resources that come with that. You see indie labels in the middle, some of those with same services, but artists getting a larger cut. Then you've got tons of fully independent DIY artists who are keeping 100% of their royalties and promoting themselves. And boy, this, Joe, I mean, the article goes on to talk about, the earnings that they had. Spotify, by the way, has been crushing it in terms of performance and what they're doing. And there's so much more there. The LinkedIn post, just to sort of tee you up, because I totally want to get your take on this.
Sure.
Speaks to this idea that Spotify is now, it asks a question. It says, why is Spotify basically worth so much more than the record labels that fuel it? And of course, this is one big reason why. And the poster, notes that in the post, but then starts to talk about, but Spotify is also more than just, streaming, record artists, right? It's also video now and podcasting and so much more. And it really has the opportunity to become, on the same par or competition with like a Netflix or something like that. So, but what do you make of all this with the independent artists and everything? And what does this mean for the future of record companies, first of all?
Well, I was trying to find some of the research on what like a larger YouTuber makes, and from what I can tell, they make a lot. You can make a lot more on Spotify than you can on YouTube. I could be wrong, but it looks like if you have 1 million users on YouTube, you're making between 15,000. You can make between 15,000 and 50,000 per month on YouTube. If you're looking at Spotify's numbers, it looks like it could be more on Spotify. Am I making this up? Is it a different kind of math?
It's a little bit different math. Yeah. Because you remember you're talking about it's not necessarily followers, it's streams. So it's more about the number of streams that you had, which is each one is monetizable at a, whatever the
different rate.
10th of a thousandth of a penny is, right? Whatever it is. And then you just have to have a lot of streams to make any money.
I think people don't realize, from what I can gather, that Spotify could surpass. I mean, if you're looking at the most influential streaming company, everybody talks about Netflix, but it seems like Spotify is going to pass them when you look at total users and total active users. I think Spotify, it seems to be, if you're talking to a creator today where they see opportunity, wouldn't that be on Spotify, where maybe video's not leveraged quite as much? Maybe you have an opportunity there over YouTube if they're paying more and they have a greater percentage going to independents. I mean, I'm just trying to use the same math. The people that are listening to this aren't necessarily musicians, but we're all content creators. Is the opportunity for Spotify something we're forgetting? And these are just some data points that, oh my God, for music, they're doing this. But we know that for audiobooks and for videos, Spotify is looking to eat YouTube and Amazon's lunch. And maybe they will. I don't know.
Well, that's so from a music perspective, I think you could argue that that's already the case, right? So yes. Amazon Music is just, I mean, I don't even know why they still have it, right? I mean, nobody.
Yeah, not for music. I'm just talking about for other things.
I get it.
I think we're talking about music, but I'm looking at the opportunities of, have we gone so far? I mean, even in, when you and I have done some books and articles, that we almost never have talked about Spotify as a place where content creators should go. unless we were talking about musicians.
Right.
But now,
so
maybe we have to expand.
well, I think you've got an interesting point, right? So I just literally, while you were talking, I looked up the numbers, right? So Netflix right now, as of 2024, has 70 million monthly active users, right? Now, those are people watching long form content, right? Whether it's hour-long series or movies, those kinds of things. Spotify has 7 times that amount. They've got 675 million monthly active users. So if Spotify can actually figure out a way to get even a portion, even half, a quarter of their total monthly active users to start consuming long form content on a regular basis, it would be, I mean, that would be, industry shaking, right? In terms of its ability to compete with the Netflixes out there, because it's at that point you're talking about, but that there's a lot that has to happen to make that really work. Most of it being content quality, right? Most of it being sort of where is the great content. And, I mean, I have Spotify on my smart TV. If there were great TV shows on Spotify, I don't care. I would watch it, right? I would totally watch it on Spotify. There's no friction there in terms of choosing Netflix over Spotify on my smart TV. I think it's really interesting for if you look at, so if you look at the evolution of Netflix, right, what it did was, and so brilliantly did, was it navigated the idea of licensed content first to say, basically, all your favorite movies are here, all your favorite TV shows are here, Friends are here, all your great, sort of classic shows, classic movies that you spent, but they paid licensing on that. So the margin was much lower than their original programming. And they shifted, and now it's the other way around, right? It's original programming with a few sort of licensed shows that are available, and licensed movies that are out there. And so they raised their margins significantly by investing in original content and doing that. Spotify is in the same exact position, right? With the record companies, which is ostensibly licensed music at a rate that, that was negotiated with their terms. But then you have the independent artists, which are getting basically paid, but it's a higher margin. I guarantee you it's a higher margin for Spotify.
So independents are getting more money per,
but it's still a higher margin. I would guarantee you it's a higher margin for Spotify, for the independents, than it is for the record companies. I can't guarantee that, but I would bet so much that it's a higher margin than what they're getting with the record companies, because there's not a piece, right? The record companies, there's no record company to get a piece of it. And so it's something that can be split between Spotify and the artist. So the artist is getting more money and Spotify is getting more money because there's nobody to have to pay.
Yeah. So obviously you can get the big artists there, and you got to go to Spotify and use that, but they're getting paid on the long tail.
That's exactly it, right? That's right.
The 100,000 other independent artists that are getting a higher yield, they're getting more money. Spotify's getting more money,
which means encouraging more and more. It encourages more and more. So we've heard this before when we look at the analysis of Netflix, right? And Netflix themselves have said this, right? Which is, Netflix isn't trying to be where the blockbusters are. Right? Netflix doesn't care about blockbusters that much. It wants to be where there's a lot of pretty good content, enough to keep you there, but not so much that it costs them on their margin to be able to, you're not going to see the next Avengers movie on Netflix. What you're going to see is a lot of, international content. You're going to see a lot of, good, profitable content that keeps people coming back, but doesn't break the bank. And so that's the calculus. And if you look at Spotify doing kind of the same thing, really surfacing independence, really getting to the ability for them to create original content, it's the same. They could take the same path with this and just crush it. Just crush it.
Yeah. And
the opportunity, for your point, the opportunity for content creators, yes, whether you're doing podcasts where there's not a ton of competition right now, or less competition certainly than other players, and you've got long form content, which video content, which is now becoming a thing, and yeah, if you can, it's a marketplace that is ripe for growth, put it that way.
Well, and you were talking about it before the show. I mean, the Universal Music Group and Warner Music Group are for the 1%ers. Right?
Yeah.
They're for this very special, the Taylor Swifts, the Kendrick Lamars, you know,
but it's really the publishing business of the 2020s, right? In other words, if do I need McGraw-Hill or, Macmillan or Penguin or, those big publishers anymore if I'm a famous author or even an independent author? We've discovered that no, you don't. You can make a living, maybe you're not going to sell, 10 million books at this point, but at some point it will happen, right? At some point it will happen where independent authors are selling the same as best-selling authors that are being published by traditional publishers. And I think the same thing happens to who is the first major star that is going to circumvent the record companies altogether and then just not be associated with the record company, right?
So here's the thing. Aside from you want to reach as many people with your book as possible, but if you just talk about money, if you are self-publishing a book and you're setting standard yields and you're going print on demand, you're using a service like Lulu or whatever you're doing, you could sell 1,000 books and come away with the same amount of money as selling 10,000 books
right
through a McGraw-Hill.
That's right.
If you just look at the numbers and we've been through this quite a few times with McGraw-Hill where we're getting about 10% after all said and done, where I might get, if I'm self-publishing a book, I might get 50 or 60% margin because I can sell it for whatever I want is the other thing. I'm not beholden to somebody saying, oh, you gotta charge $19.95. I could do special edition that's $45. You can do a lot of different things. So, and by the way, we've talked about this a million times. You get the information. You get the customer information that you never, ever get. Right. I told this story last time when we published Content Entrepreneur, the book. The first sale that came through, that's the first time I ever saw the name of somebody that bought my book. Yeah. It's the first time I ever saw it. So I was just like, wow. It's a big deal. Anyways, I think Spotify is in that position.
I'm bullish on Spotify for sure. Big bullish on Spotify. And I am, if there was such a thing, I would be shorting record companies. I just think they've got to be scrambling right now to figure out, I know that there's tie-ins right now with live music, right? So, there's all the sort of live music business side of it, which is really the money driver these days for the bigger artists, world tours and those sorts of things. But I think even that at some point can be democratized.
You're seeing that happen in the news industry right now. We covered it last week where you got these big broadcasters and journalists that are having to take major pay cuts or get let go. And these, you're not going to you have a production division of 1,000 or 2,000 or 3,000 people versus independent media company or small content creator that has 6.
Right.
And can come up with quality that's pretty darn close or nobody cares. You're like, oh, that's an old model. We're seeing it firsthand. So
it is indeed. That's good stuff. Hey, speaking of which, we should probably do our own sort of record company distribution and pay a couple of our bills.
Let's do that.
I don't know.
Do you want a profitable new podcast to listen to? Well, let me introduce you to Content is Profit, hosted by Louise and Fonzie Camejo and brought to you by the HubSpot Podcast Network. Discover the secrets and strategies on how your business can achieve the frictionless sale. On Content is Profit, they talk about frameworks, strategies, tactics, and they bring special guests in to bring you all the information you need in order to turn your content into profit. Yeah, funny how that works out. You can find Content into Profit wherever you follow your favorite pods. Marketing in 2025 is wild. Savvy customers spot fake messaging instantly. Privacy changes make ad targeting a nightmare, and everyone needs more content than ever before. That's why you have to check out HubSpot's new Marketing Trends Report. It doesn't just show you what's changing, it shows you exactly how to deal with it. Everything's backed by research and focused on marketing plays that you can use now. Ready to turn marketing hurdles into results? Go to clickhubspot.com/marketing to download it for free.
I'm having like a podcast dance party over here.
That's awesome.
This is incredible. You know, nobody else, I listened to quite a few podcasts. Nobody else runs them live like this. Like they do them in production. Like nobody mentions the ad that just played. Like we do this live. I think there's something to that.
I think there is too. There's more value for our advertisers. That's for sure. More value for our advertisers.
While these ads are going on, we're actually listening to them, and we're seat dancing.
That's right.
While it happens with your beautiful AI generated music.
The advertisers never call us, email us to say, "Hey, thanks for putting some extra care and feeding into not just doing a stupid readout." You know what I mean? It's all we're required to do. All we're required to do is go, and welcome. Here's the thing that you need to pay attention to. And
we've had a little bit. I mean, there's been a few comments that have been like, "Thank you for going the extra mile, Joe and Robert."
Really? I never.
Let's just say that there has been.
Okay.
Let's just say that there has.
Let's
okay.
Even if there haven't, let's just say that there has. I hear you. I see you. I got it. I got it.
That's a really good. No, I have learned through the of negotiation and persuasion that if you just keep saying that this something is true, after a while people start believing it.
Yeah.
I'm just gonna keep saying,
our current politics are certainly evidence of that.
That's not. I wasn't talking about that. You mentioned politics again. You keep going back to politics all the time. I don't know what's wrong with you. It's not me. It's not me. It's not you.
It's
I
not
think that's
your
the
fault.
other way.
It's not your fault. It's not your fault. It's not your fault, Joe. It's not your fault. Okay, let's get to our next story here, which is a totally fun one for all of you involved in content marketing. It's been a little while since we've seen a big acquisition, but here we go. This is coming courtesy of the Wall Street Journal, so it's for real when the Wall Street Journal covers it. The headline here is that Wonder acquires Tastemade, which you and I have talked about Tastemade for a long time, for its latest quest to make a mealtime super app. And the article opens up by saying Wonder CEO Mark Lohr hopes the company will one day offer AI-powered autonomous food ordering for all 3 meals of the day. Wonder, the food delivery startup once known for its fleet of kitchens on wheels, said it has acquired the media company Tastemade. The purchase price was around $90 million, according to people familiar with the transaction. The deal is the latest step in Wonder's effort to create a mealtime super app encompassing elements such as takeout, delivery, meal kits, and now an international production company, content studio, and advertising business. Wonder in 2023 put the kibosh on the plans to build a nationwide fleet of kitchens and vans that cooked hot curbside meals, shifting to a less costly model. Its flagship business now offers pickup, delivery, and dine-in from multiple restaurant brands, prepping dishes in large central kitchens and cooking them to order at 38 restaurant locations. It also acquired meal kit brand Blue Apron in 2023 and the food delivery start Grubhub in 2024. So they've been growing fast and furious underneath the covers here. I mean, not a lot of news about them of late, but here we go. The article goes on to then talk about the acquisition itself and the CEO's comments on why they did this. Basically, it's classic content marketing acquisition, like you and I have talked about, which is basically it provides yet another revenue stream, but also the data that they might want, content that they might need, and all of the information they might need to actually build that super app. And so it's just, I mean, it makes all the sense in the world. What did you think?
Well, this is so interesting to me because if they have somebody through a TikTok or YouTube that's creating a meal, and then you can click on that and get it made and delivered to your house, all using the same company. I mean, that's like Amazon. I mean, it's pretty amazing. If they now, I want to see if that's possible now. So outside of that concept, I love it, of course. It's like they're getting the data, they're getting the brand. It's really incredible. It fits in with their business model perfectly. They want to make sure that they build an audience of interested people into, making your own food or interesting food recipes and whatnot. So that said, but what was really interesting, and I don't get this, it brought in 93 million in annual revenue as of July 2024. So basically, they sold for one-time revenue.
Yeah, that was
One-time
fascinating.
revenue.
Yeah, exactly.
What?
Yeah.
It just seems that.
Yeah,
that's extraordinarily low. Folks.
They got a deal. They got a steal with that company.
There has to be some points on the back end. It can't. I mean, maybe it's just 90 million up front. That can't be the whole deal, because it's way too valuable to be selling just for 90. But I mean, let's just say that that's true and that's a real number. You see the difference between a media and advertising and sponsor revenue company versus like a membership and subscription company. So just think about it as a content creator, as a marketer, you're getting into this business and you're building an audience. And if you ultimately want to sell that division or you want to sell that content brand, if you have membership or subscription, you should be able to sell at 3, 4, 5x revenue versus 1.5 or 2x revenue. I just can't even believe that's true. It's so low. So they got a great deal.
There is a possibility here, which is it could have been, because remember, 93 million in annual revenue as of July of last year. So in the intervening, let's call it 8 months,
down.
They could have seen a real distress in terms of, traffic from Google, pressure from AI, pressure from other competitors, and the advertising model for them could have been under distress. And so it could have been like they can see the writing on the wall. Both of them, acquirer and acquiree, can see the writing on the wall. Like this business is toast unless we have scale, right? Unless we can actually create another revenue stream here, which of course is the entire reason for the acquisition, because it's a 1 + 1 = 3 kind of thing. And so it could have been that, but I'll bet you're right, which is there's more to this deal than just the cash out the door.
But again, opportunity missed by brands over and over and over again.
Yeah,
especially on the distressed side. There's a lot of distressed media properties out there,
right,
that large media companies own, and they are probably looking at it right now. They probably just went through their planning. They're seeing another recession coming. Maybe they would really like to have some cash in the bank if they're cash light, and they're probably willing to offload some of their properties. If you are a brand that has any kind of cash sitting on the sidelines or would like to launch a new content marketing initiative yourself, geez, do the work. Go. I mean, there's so many opportunities out there. I just think
huge opportunities.
It's still, I mean, I remember you and I, we had this conversation. We were in Singapore. What was it, 2010? 2000, I can't remember what year it was, 2010, 11, 12, something like that. We were talking with the CMO of a very large company, and we told him about, hey, you could just buy a media property instead of building one and cut through a lot of the time that it's going to take to build an audience. And he looked like we had 3 heads.
Right.
Just like, and it still seems like that education hasn't
and
happened
what,
to a lot of points.
Well, you know what it is in so many ways. What I find when I start talking about this with marketing teams, and that includes the leadership of marketing teams as well as the practitioners in the business, they hear the word acquisition and they go, oh, it's way beyond my pay grade, right?
Yep.
It's like that's a business thing, right? Our CEO would have to get involved. Our board would have to get involved. We'd have to get, it just, the sheer mention of the word acquisition throws up so many red flags in their head because it sounds hard and complicated. And what people forget is it doesn't have to be. It doesn't have to be hard and complicated. You can make it hard and complicated, but it doesn't have to be hard because there's so many different gradations of the ways you can get into that. Like quite literally, if you find someone, a smaller player, a media company, you just go to them and you go, hey, listen, how much would it be to become your exclusive benefactor? In other words, you don't sell any more advertising. You don't sell any more things. and to anyone, we become your your sugar daddy, as it were.
Yeah.
And basically we pay for everything. And but we are now the exclusive sponsor of everything you do. And you sort of do a soft acquisition that way to start, to see if it works, right? We'll try it for 6 months. We'll try it for a year. Still going to be cheaper than building something and trying to build that momentum, than you might otherwise. Or at least the calculus is worth doing the math and the spreadsheets over. And then you figure, okay, great. Now, if it makes sense, now you've got a business case to go make the larger sort of, get legal involved and finance involved and all the people that are going to have to handle all of the stuff about a proper acquisition of the IP.
That is brilliant, Robert. That is great advice for it, because then you don't have to go in and say, we're interested in buying you.
Yeah.
You just say, we're interested in really partnering with you. And
Right.
then you get that number and then you do your math. You say, well, if it's going to be $1 million for the whole thing, if it's a small media company or a content creator, you say, well, what if we just bought you?
Right. And by the way, that sounds revolutionary, but it's what companies do. It's what private equity companies do. It's what other companies do. They go in, like an Amazon or somebody like that, they'll go partner, becoming the exclusive partner of some small technology. What do they get? They get visibility under the covers. They get visibility into the development of the software. They get a roadmap. They get all the sort of quote unquote secret sauce, and they can see for themselves if it's really worth buying. And then they can go, great. And if not, they can jettison it tomorrow.
Yeah. I love it. Great advice.
Yeah.
Perfect.
Yeah. All right. Let's get to our next story here, which is coming to us courtesy of PR Week. I really like PR Week. I wish they did more stuff.
They've been doing stuff for a long time. Maybe.
Oh, I know they've been doing stuff for a long time, but they don't hit my inbox very often. Anyway, the article here is new Unilever CEO to hire 20 times more influencers in major marketing boost. The CPG giant's boss will increase social media investment from 30% to 50% of total marketing spend. Let that number sink in for a second.
That is huge.
30% to 50% of their total marketing spend. And where that money's coming out of, right? That's not increasing by 30 or 50%.
It's coming out of billboards.
It's coming out of billboards. It's coming out of TV. It's coming out of
definitely coming out of TV. Yeah,
it's coming out of TV is where it's coming up mostly. Anyway, so the article opens up by saying, in his first public appearance as CEO of Unilever, Fernando Fernandez, it's a great name, has outlined his goals for the brand, which owns Dove, Hellmann's, and Persil, among others. In an interview with Warren Ackerman, head of European consumer staples research at Barclays, Fernandez said, today, brands by definition and by default are met with skepticism when their messages come directly from corporations. Couldn't have said it better myself. Creating marketing activity systems where others can speak for your brand at scale is incredibly important. Influencers, celebrities, TikTokers, these are the voices that matter, he said. The only one I would just add employees to that list, but yes.
Oh, okay. I was going to add that. You stole my thunder.
Yeah. Fernandez, an economist from the University of Buenos Aires, who joined Unilever in 1988, identified influencers, content gatekeepers, and healthcare professionals as key channels to boost the conglomerate's brands in local regions. Our spend on social will move from 30% to 50%. And he says, I will drive like hell, desirability at scale, and marketing systems with what others say about our brands at scale. Our marketing spend has moved from 13% in 2022, now close to 16%, which we see as a competitive level. Our spend on social media will move from 30% to 50% of our total spend. We will work with 20 times more influencers. I think I believe it's absolutely cutting and leading edge, and it's the indicator, if you were looking for one, an industry indicator, like this is the move to make, right? This is the move to make, to move into people. And like I said, the only thing I'd add to it is employees should be on that list too.
I wonder if that's part of it. It has to be, but the fact that he didn't mention it is concerning, because the biggest opportunity initially would be employees and the expertise that they have and the ability to help them create channels or add to the channels that they currently have, because your employees are your best marketers. But I love this statement here at the end of this article. It says, so Fernando Fernandez says,
So good.
there are 19,000 zip codes in India and 5,700 municipalities in Brazil. I want at least one influencer in each of them. In some, I want 100. Right. That's a significant shift. Holy crap.
Yeah.
They're in 190 countries.
Yeah.
If you think about this, and I guess it also tells you how much influence can buy. If he's really doing this and they're expanding out like this and they're removing the billions of dollars in advertising and move that over to, you can buy a lot more influencers.
That's right.
For the price of an ad.
Yeah. Well, that's crazy. Exactly it, right? I mean, what you used to spend, the $10 million you spend on a flight for 3 months on a broadcast network. Think about the amount of airtime, quote unquote, you can get by hiring, 100 influencers to do the same thing across social media.
But the initial quote that you read off, which is great. Well, we should probably read it again. The
amount of money, or
no, where he's talking about where they're skeptical of brands. Anyways, they're skeptical of brands and they want to receive information from individuals. That's cannot be overstated.
Today and the quote is, today brands by definition and by default,
there you go,
are met with skepticism when their messages come directly from corporations. Creating marketing activity systems where others can speak for your brand at scale is incredibly important. Influencers, celebrities, TikTokers, and we would add employees. Yeah. These are the voices that matter.
So remember, like when let's just say you're doing your newsletter, you don't want it to come from the brand and you don't want it to come from your content brand. You really want it to come from some individual working within the content brand that works for your organization. So,
exactly.
And that's that authentic trust that you're trying to build with that person. And that to your point, that's where we want to give the employees more power.
Yeah.
And more influence themselves. And just like you would go into a team shop. If you were a fan of a certain team, you want the same thing. You want your customer to go into a team shop of your brand and see all your employees' kits and jerseys up on the wall. That's the vision you need to have when you go in and you talk to the CMO or the CEO. That's the type of relationships we want to build. That means employees first. But this is pretty impressive, I gotta say.
Yeah, I love it. I absolutely love it. It's just such a wonderful, clear indicator of where things are moving, and a great lesson for us. A great lesson. All right, let's get to our winners and losers, where Joe and I pick a winner from the last week in marketing or a loser. Big L on their forehead.
A loser.
A loser. Somebody once told me that.
That's pretty good.
Yeah. Anyway, so you want to go first?
The sharpest tool in the shed. Yeah. I'll go first. Yes. So I wanted to talk a little bit about Southwest Airlines. First of all, I don't normally fly Southwest, but I flew on Southwest yesterday. It's been a while.
Okay. Yeah.
And I absolutely love the people on Southwest. The flight attendants are great. They're always the funniest. They're always the most real. They're always smiling. You know exactly what you're going to get on Southwest, and they tell you. I mean, all those things are great. Here's the issue. However, so I missed they used to have an award-winning print magazine.
Yeah.
They don't have that anymore. I get it, right? But I still think that's a missed opportunity. Okay, let's just put that to the side. I open up the Southwest app because you get access, which is great. You get access to movies and live television and all kinds of stuff within the app, and it's absolutely free. I go into and look at the live television, and I go through, and they're promoting a show. And they're promoting I wrote it down here somewhere. Let's see if I can find it. Doesn't really matter. It was a kitchen show. It was a cooking show, and then it basically morphed into a travel show. And so I was looking, and let's just say, I'm looking at the live television. There's CBS, there's NBC, there's CNBC, and I'm going through, and 2 times, very big, they're like, watch this show now. The Lost Kitchen with Emily somebody. It's right in there. And I click on it. I'm thinking, oh, they're really promoting this. There's got to be some really good Southwest content. I'm thinking like something. And I go in and it's about a restaurant, small restaurant that goes on a road trip in an Airstream across the country.
Okay.
I just want that to sink in for a little bit. This is not a road trip that I can take via Southwest Airlines.
Sure.
And use a flight. They're telling me drive there. I'm like, what a lost opportunity. If you want to do a show like that, why can't you do the I want to fly away deal, whatever they have in Southwest, and go to these other cities and do the same exact show? They were promoting somebody else's show, but I'm like, what? If somebody paid for that, then great. But I'm like, okay, you already took away Southwest's biggest communication vehicle, the print magazine, and you're going to put it into the app. Okay, I get it. Going digital, but the promotion, you're promoting something that has no alignment at all with flight.
Yeah.
I just thought it was a missed opportunity.
Well, I think you're right. I mean, I think, we've talked on this show before about the idea of retail media networks and how so many, everybody from Walmart to Target to Amazon to, Starbucks to Burger King, so many of them now have retail media networks where it's the 2020s version of the in-flight magazine, right? In-flight magazines were the retail media network for airlines for decades, and then very much went out of style, as you well know, based on your history in the publishing world. Went very much out of style. Then they came back in style for about 10 minutes, and now they're kind of like just sitting in this liminal space where, they still exist, but they're not what they used to be, certainly. But now with apps, there's your opportunity for a digital version of the in-flight magazine. And, and to be able to promote shows that are content marketing and basically ads for places where Southwest could work with other brands, right? Could work with other things and do themed shows. And it's, I agree. It seems like a huge missed opportunity.
I just couldn't believe it because I'm looking for this. It was called The Lost Kitchen.
Yeah.
So I actually was watching it for, okay, where's the integration? What am I, is it aspirational? Is it inspirational? Or what's going on here that's aligning with the mission and goals of Southwest Airlines? Nothing. It's just it was just a regular old show, but it's the opposite of what they would want.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Let's drive cross country. Don't get on a plane. You can't do it on a plane. I'm like, you gotta be kidding me. Okay.
All right.
What do you got?
I got my winner is this week are CMOs. And here's the reason so I'm also going to point to Spencer Stewart. We'll link to it in the show notes here. Every year, Spencer Stewart does a CMO tenure study, which is basically, they're talking about what's going on with CMOs and marketing in general. I think it's well done. It's a well done study every year. So I guess they're a winner this week as well. But more to the point of one of the biggest statistics this year coming out of the research is that CMOs, their tenure is going up, right? So year over year, it's not up a lot, but it is up. And it starts to illustrate that brands, we've been talking for years about, do brands really need CMOs? Is the CMO too big of a job? Is it a valuable position? Is it getting divvied up into, the chief customer officer and the chief digital officer and the chief this officer? And is the CMO's role getting sort of bifurcated into different transactional sort of mechanisms? And what I liked about this very much was sort of pointing to the fact that tenure and investment in sort of a vision from a CMO is seemingly sort of a bit on a rebound. Now, whether it holds or not over the next year and a half, we'll find out. But it's really interesting to me to see it finally getting at least close to the same tenure of those that are in the CFO's position or the CIO's position or the COO's position, which of course has historically had a much higher tenure rate. And so I'm heartened by this. I've been on quite the bit of a rant lately about investment in marketing teams being sort of the new leading strategy, sort of invest, whether that comes to elevating your employees to becoming influencers and educating them, training them, making them influential out there, because that's incredibly important, investing in teams so that they become experts, because more and more, I would argue that marketing is the same level of complexity and, complexity for sure as finance and legal, all professions that we would never think about sort of just looking at that finance team or that legal team as sort of just widgets that we could plug in and unplug at any point. But marketing tends to be seen that way, where you can just plug and unplug people to go in and push buttons and do things. And of course, that's not true. And so the investment in marketing teams, the investment in marketing leadership, to me is a positive sign. And I'm hopeful that it continues. So winner this week for CMOs and winner this week for Spencer Stewart.
Yeah, I thought the last stat in this article, which we'll put in the show notes, says 40% are called chief marketing officer, 16% are marketing plus another function like marketing and communications officer.
Yeah.
And 33% have marketing in their title, but not the word chief. So like SVP of marketing.
Sure. Yeah.
So it's just expanded that role a little bit, but it's just because a lot of smaller companies don't have a CMO. They would just have a VP of marketing.
That's right.
Role.
That's right. The reports up to
leading,
the CEO.
Yeah, the leading marketer in the business. So,
that's right. Yeah,
very good.
Exactly.
Very nice.
Exactly. All right. Well, let's get to our rants and raves section really quickly here before we run out of time, and get to something that makes us feel a little bit like we have a lot of Tesla stock, or something that makes us feel like we're glad we don't have Tesla stock right now. I kind of wish I'd shorted Tesla stock. I mean,
well, but what's interesting is, and I don't know what's going on in the market today, but it went from like $400 some dollars, and now it's like $250 a share or something like that. It's still on a price to earnings ratio. It's still something like,
it's down 5% today. Like, it literally, as we record this, it's hit 235. Okay.
But it's still like 30 or 40 times more expensive than any other car.
Yeah.
From a price to earnings ratio. So theoretically, if you just saw Tesla as a car manufacturer, like it could really go down quite a bit more. But a lot of people don't. They say, oh, yeah, you got all Elon Musk other companies that kind of lift it up. And I don't know if I see that. I think it's just extremely overvalued.
Well, in the last month, it's gone from $355 a share to today it's at $234. So it's lost a lot.
Well, I mean, the last I saw is
30%.
The last quarter over quarter, 11% down sales in the United States, and like 74% down in Germany. I mean,
yeah, it's hitting levels.
Folks, it ain't gonna get better anytime soon.
It's now hitting levels. Tesla's now hitting levels. So just to show you how fast it went up, right? Based on Trump and everything else. So in October of last year, right, it was $213 a share. So it's now lost every single bit of its
Trump bump,
right?
Yeah.
And then if you look at the 1 year, it basically is trading right around where it was sort of flat for, most of 2024.
I don't know if you saw the picture. Obviously, there's been a lot of protests and vandalism and whatnot. The picture is of a Cybertruck.
Yeah.
And on the back, they put Rivian. Like somebody.
Oh, yeah. That's a thing now.
Please don't key my car.
No. There's a whole thing now where people are basically replacing their Tesla logo with like Audi logos and with Toyota logos, and and literally taking the thing off the back of the car and sticking on the, trying to fool you into thinking that it's an Audi.
No, the one that my son and I saw in Phoenix was the Tesla logo was on the back. It was fine, but on both sides it had a Kamala Harris for president.
There you go.
And I'm like, okay, I think I see what's going on here.
Yeah, that's good. I like that. That's very good.
That's pretty funny.
All right. I'm going to talk very briefly, and it's common. It's not a rant or a rave. I just think it's very interesting because it's a term that I internally in my own mind had been using for some time, but now I understand it's a thing, and it's a thing called shadow AI. We'll link to a VentureBeat article here just to sort of just talk to specifically what we're talking about here. But there's a number of places that are starting to really talk through it. And basically the idea of shadow AI is that, and the way this article opens, it says security leaders and CISOs that basically the information officers and security officers are discovering that a growing swarm of shadow AI apps have been compromising their networks, in some cases for more than a year. They're not basically attackers. They're basically employees that are creating either AI apps or using AI to do their work without, like under the covers, right? Basically without permission. And you can go beyond that to basically workers that are now, and this is, I've talked a little bit about this about a month ago, and I wrote an article on it, which is this idea of, I think a lot of the statistics that we see today in sort of enterprises adopting AI, which seems to have flattened out a bit, and still is a small number. Like, we're all experimenting with AI where, the teams are experimenting and looking at things, and there's not a lot of enterprise adoption yet. And I don't think that's actually true. I think it's actually more prevalent than we are led to believe, because I believe that so many marketers, information workers are using either their own version of ChatGPT or Claude or whatever your favorite flavor is, and sort of using it, but not copying to it. In other words, they're doing the work that they're supposed to be doing, whether that's writing, whether that's editing, whether that's creating new ads, whether it's writing headlines, whether it's doing the thing. And in the background, they're using AI to help them do their work. And basically that, and if asked, in many cases, I believe, I don't have any empirical data to show this, but if I believe that there's a bit of a, I don't know, shame is the right word, but certainly there's no reason to admit to it, right? There's no reason for me to say, oh yeah, I use AI to help me write my blog post, or I use AI to help me write that 4 headlines, or I use AI to do that, because there's sort of a stigma associated with it right now. So it's this idea where I think there's a lot more AI usage going on in the individuals doing the work in marketing that is creating content, that is creating applications, that is creating, all these things, that's going unreported and will continue to go unreported. And the interesting thing to me is, like, is there a tipping point? This is the question I have. Like, is there a tipping point where it becomes like, you can't police that, right? You can't actually, there's nothing IT can do about that, because if nobody's copying to it, then you don't know. And even if you were to run some sort of AI detector on content, et cetera, then what is it that what do you do? Like, how do you even prevent it? Like, what's the way to actually police that? And it's a fascinating topic for me, because when you start thinking about all the different people that create content in whatever business and how they're using AI to do that, it becomes a really interesting challenge for marketing leaders and businesses to sort of, understand where they're getting value out of AI. And honestly, it hides the fact that AI may or may not be the kind of thing where we can replace somebody. In other words, what are you replacing? Are you replacing the person? The stupid bumper sticker used to say, AI won't take your job, but somebody using AI will take your job. But now it's like, well, if you replace the marketer who's using AI because you want AI to replace them, but then they can't, because the new person that comes in doesn't know how to use AI to the same extent that the other person was. So it becomes this, I love this as sort of a challenge, because it's going to become very, very interesting. Now, there's a whole other aspect to this that this article speaks to, which is the security and the privacy and the idea of giving out company secrets into the public domain and all that kind of stuff, which is a whole other issue to be sure. And copyright certainly is going to play a big role in this, but I think it's a fascinating issue that I'm going to be paying a lot of attention to.
I know somebody that works on the IT side that was very, very much against it, but they had a real coding problem and they couldn't figure it out. They did the copy paste and asked ChatGPT to figure it out, and it figured it out in a second, exactly and then they put the right code back in. It saved them hours of going through the code.
Yeah, that's exactly right. And but then you go, okay, what's the should that person be Should that person admit that they did that? And I would say, no, they shouldn't admit that they did that. That's, they figured it out. They had a tool and they figured it out. They figured it out. Right.
I don't know.
So-
Is it like, okay, you wrote this term paper, you didn't use a typewriter, you used Microsoft Word. I
Right.
can't believe it. Is
That's
it like
right.
that? It's like, of course I use Microsoft Word. That's just smart.
Yeah,
Why would I use a typewriter?
exactly.
I don't know.
Exactly. Yeah.
I don't
No,
know anymore.
that's
I'm
exactly
so
it.
afraid of the future.
Yeah.
I can't stand it. All right. So mine real quickly is, I'll put this in the show notes. It's a Substack, of course,
Yes.
about brands getting involved in Substack called Here Come the Brands. And
So meta.
it really is, but it's a really good example. And a lot of these brands that are getting involved are small businesses that are building their subscription base, and they're linking it in and integrating it in with if it's a restaurant, with their in-store sales and other things like that, and follow-ups and reservations. And it's really beautiful to see what's happening. And I guess I'm just throwing out for a long period of time, I missed that Substack was going to be this important. What I didn't realize is that there were 4 million, I think this is right, 4 million members actual Substacks that were happening in November of last year, and already by February it's 5 million. Like, that's huge growth. Like, all of a sudden,
Yeah.
you got huge growth going on.
I think it was me. I
It's
think it was me
Substack.
recommending it pretty much.
I'm pretty
that drove that
sure
growth,
it was, yes, I'm sure it was you. But I guess I'm just throwing it out there. And of course, this program, the two channels, if you will, or technology platforms that I think I underestimated as a content creator was Substack and Spotify. And I think that now, adding to the list, we really have to take these seriously going forward. By the way, the link, if you want to see some really good examples of what brands are doing, I'll put that, click on the show notes and you can get it. But it's pretty amazing. I'm impressed.
It's awesome. Yeah, no, I've said it on the show. They don't pay me. I don't, by the way, if someone at Substack would like to pay me, I'd be more than glad to do this for money, but they don't. I'm a fan of the tool. I very much enjoy using the tool.
Well, I guess you could create your own paid subscriptions.
I could, but my shit's not worth, subscribing to and paying.
You made it almost a whole episode without cussing again. And you do it at the hour 6 mark or
there
whatever
you go.
we're at.
Yeah.
Jeez.
There you go.
All right. Good stuff.
There you go.
What do you got going on?
I'm work, and enjoying it. We've been doing this weird thing here in LA with the weather, where Tuesday through Friday is rain, which nobody's complaining about. Don't get me wrong. But then the weekends are bright and sunny, so it's been really fun to get out and do some hiking. Nice. And I posted on Instagram the other day, which was, there was an earthquake here in LA, 4.4 out near Malibu. And it was literally where it happened. I mean, and I literally mean literally. It was the epicenter of the earthquake was 100 feet from where we were hiking at the time. We didn't feel it. Like, I didn't feel it there. I didn't even know that we were at the epicenter until we got back home, and I saw it on the map on my internet, and I was like, oh, okay. We were like right there. I mean, literally, the car was parked.
Does it not move in the epicenter, but it moves as you get
theoretically
out?
No. Theoretically, it should move just as much. We were just, I don't know why we didn't feel it.
You were just shaking so much that
well, as I said, and I tagged my lovely wife in this, I said, it's not often. I'm not just saying that, my wife and I can rock your world, but coincidence? I don't think so.
Oh my God.
So anyway, getting outside, getting some sunshine.
That's beautiful. Yeah, I enjoyed 3 wonderful days in Phoenix. We had absolutely perfect weather.
Fantastic.
And it's starting to warm up here in Cleveland, so I can't complain all that much. So we'll see. Might hit 50 today. Big deal in Cleveland.
That's warm. That's warm for you.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to summer weather.
Yeah, there you go.
There you go. Oh, off to you.
All right. Well, hey, thanks everybody. Thanks for hanging in there, and hope you enjoyed the show. We will, of course, be back again next week with another wonderful news show and all the fun snark and the curse words that that you want and need every single day. Anyway, until we see you again next week, just remember, everybody, it's your story to tell. Tell it well. See you next week on This Old Marketing.
Hey, thanks a lot for making it this far in this week's episode, and thank you all for being a part of This Old Marketing. You can check out all the show notes of what we talked about today at thisoldmarketing.com, and it's also where you can leave us a review or a voicemail. We need those reviews and comments on whichever platform you follow us on. And if you haven't followed the podcast, please go do that and make sure you catch the latest and greatest episodes every Friday morning. We're on Apple and Spotify and all your other favorite podcatchers, of course, but we'd love it if you went over and subscribed to us on YouTube. That's right, YouTube. youtube.com/@thisoldmarketing. We'll see you again next week, folks, with another episode of This Old Marketing.